After a near-death experience, a young mafioso can commune with the ghost of his dead uncle, and together they try and piece together how he died. The journey brings the young mafioso's inner conflict to the surface and forces him to choose between continuing with his criminal life or a clean break. Denwell explores the relationship between criminal organizations and the literal manifestations of the spirits they may have killed. It tackles a thought experiment about having access to those who have passed, and if you are willing to listen and learn from the tragedies of the past. The characters in Denwell are as follows. Giovanni Spectri, the reluctant young heir to the Spectri mafia family, who wants desperately to be approved by his father but lacks the will to commit crimes. Elio Spectri, the calm, intimidating head of the Spectri family, who rules the north side of Chicago with a ghost entourage that he has curated through killing people and capturing their souls. Antonio Spectri, the deceased uncle of Gio and brother to Elio, mysteriously murdered and comes back to mentor Gio through a familial bond. James DeSoto, a double agent for the Chicago PD, goes undercover to pretend to be a dirty cop for the Spectri's family and works to bring them down from the inside. Camille Dubois, a member of the Dubois family, a voodoo-powered crime family on the east side of Chicago, is the catalyst for the destruction that follows. The story is set in a Chicagoland with the Spectri crime family, who have abilities to interact with the supernatural. It is activated through traumatic experiences where the dead latch onto the nearest familial bond. It is called Vista della Morte, which is death sight, a familial power bond within the Spectri family that allows them to see the dead as long as they were near a traumatic event involving the dead with their extreme emotions that will imprint the spirit onto them. Individuals like Camille Dubois have enchanted signet rings that the Spectri family used, which concentrates their raw emotions felt during the traumatic event and channels it through the ring to manifest a clear spirit that they can communicate with. In the opening, we see a scenic, cool Chicago morning as the Spectri family and numerous crime families are shown up for Antonio Spectri's funeral, as he has been killed in a shootout that is mysterious to Gio Spectri. It takes a dark turn when the hearse carrying Antonio's casket explodes, nearly killing Gio Spectri and almost killing Elio Spectri. Thoroughly rattled from experience, his raw fear is able to grant him death sight and manifest Antonio's spirit onto him. Antonio remembers very little about what happens, but remembers being shot in a warehouse, but cannot remember who pulled the trigger. Gio secretly investigates the warehouse and meets James DeSoto, who later reveals he is an undercover cop. Gio begins questioning both his father and his family business. And as they continue to investigate, they trace the last call that Antonio made, finding a building that was shot up and was filled with psychic objects. Antonio also realizes that they are now in Dubois family territory, and they are conveniently knocked out at the equivalent time. After negotiating their freedom with the Dubois family, they discover Camille was killed in a mob hit, and the family has been secretly trying to investigate. Gio agrees to help them. Camille and Antonio were conspiring against Elio, who had discovered this and ordered Camille to be killed to steal her rings and end the threat. Elio then confronted Antonio and killed him in the warehouse. The climax builds to Gio ultimately confronting Elio with a gun and forces him to confess to ordering both murders and orchestrating the car bomb to control the narrative. Elio confesses shamelessly. As the truth becomes clear, Gio is forced to confront the reality of his father's power and the cost of his family legacy. In the end, Gio knows he can't have his father arrested and shoots him. In his dying breath, Elio says he's proud of Gio, and his spirit is imprinted onto Gio, who is now a killer, and his mind has been twisted by his father, who burns out the spirit of his uncle, and Gio now takes control of the Spectri family. The closing scene is a couple of beat cops finding the body of James DeSoto after Gio orders him killed, and what follows is strings of murders and criminal activity that Gio orchestrates. The post-credit scene is a shadowy meaning of Dubois family now realizing that Gio is a threat to them, and they plan to eliminate him. After the pitch presentation, we received a Q&A in which we received questions that were important to revise upon. One question was how to make this world contrasting to other mob movies, other mafia-esque styles. So what I really wanted to do was really lean into the supernatural aspect of this world, which makes it very different, but I really wanted to make sure that it was clear, and it was like a tool for mafia family members or even other crime family members by inventing new ones, such as the Dubois family, which we didn't have originally. Another one was solidifying the power system in this world, and how I did that was making it very about the familial bonds and heritage. I saw that in both Spetri and Dubois families had really clear ones. One was voodoo in African descent, and the other one was more in Italian descent. I also wanted to give it a name, such as Death Site or Vista della Muerte, to give it a more believable part of the family rather than just see ghost. That's important because in this world it would be important to have a name for it, as it is a coming of age thing for mafia family members of the Spetri family, as it is shows that they are man enough to have these events in their life, either to go kill or be near killings, which makes having a name for it much more believable.